Sand whipped across the broken landscape as explosions tore through the red desert. Patrick pressed himself against the crumbling wall, feeling the heat from another blast wave wash over his back. His rifle felt heavy in his hands, almost as heavy as the knowledge settling into his gut. They were losing this fight badly. "Fall back to the bunker," he shouted over the screaming of alien weapons. His squad scrambled through the smoke, dragging wounded soldiers between them. The insect creatures were everywhere now, their chittering voices echoing across the dunes like a nightmare chorus. Patrick had fought many battles across the stars, but nothing prepared him for this planet they called Crimson Reach. Anne, the medic, ran beside him with blood covering her uniform. Not her blood, thankfully. She had been working nonstop for 6 hours trying to keep soldiers alive. Her medical bag bounced against her hip, nearly empty now. Behind them, Dmitri fired his weapon in controlled bursts, buying them precious seconds. The engineer had steady hands even when everything went wrong. Grace, their pilot, limped along with one arm hanging useless at her side. Her flight suit was torn and scorched. She had crashed her fighter deliberately into enemy lines to give the ground troops time to retreat. It worked, but cost her the use of her arm and any chance of flying again anytime soon. 6 other soldiers stumbled with them into the reinforced bunker. Some Patrick knew by name. Others were from different units thrown together by chaos. One young soldier, barely 20 years old, clutched his stomach where dark blood seeped through his fingers. Another woman with corporal stripes limped on a makeshift splint. They were all that remained from a force of 200. The bunker door slammed shut behind them. Dmitri immediately started working on the locking mechanism, his fingers moving quickly despite the trembling. Patrick did a quick count. 10 soldiers total, half of them seriously wounded. He moved to the communication panel and activated the emergency channel. Firebase Delta to any human vessel. We need immediate evacuation. We have 10 survivors, multiple wounded, position compromised. Please respond. Static filled the air. Patrick tried again, adjusting frequencies. Still nothing but empty noise. He felt cold despite the heat of battle still radiating through the walls. Then a voice crackled through, distant and broken. "Firebase Delta, this is Fleet Command." "We copy your situation." Relief flooded through Patrick. "Command, we need extraction now. The enemy is closing in. We have critically wounded personnel." The pause that followed lasted too long. When the voice returned, it carried a weight that Patrick recognized immediately. He had heard that tone before when commanders made terrible decisions. "Firebase Delta, all evacuation ships are at maximum capacity. Enemy forces have overrun the landing zones. We cannot risk additional vessels." Patrick gripped the communication panel. "Command, we have 10 soldiers here. 10 living, breathing people. Send one ship." "Just one." Another pause. "Negative, Firebase Delta. The tactical situation does not permit rescue operations. Your position will be overrun within hours. Command recommends you make peace with your situation. I'm sorry, soldier." The communication went dead. Patrick stared at the silent panel, his mind refusing to accept what just happened. They were being abandoned, left to die because the numbers didn't add up favorably on some distant commander's screen. "What did they say?" Anne asked, her voice already knowing the answer from his expression. Patrick turned to face his people. 9 pairs of eyes looked at him, waiting for orders, waiting for hope. He had always been honest with his soldiers. He wouldn't stop now, even when the truth tasted like ash. "They're not coming for us." Silence fell over the bunker. Someone laughed, a broken sound without humor. The young soldier with the stomach wound started crying quietly. "Grace punched the wall hard enough to bloody her knuckles, so that's it?" Dmitri asked. "We just wait here to die?" "No," Patrick said firmly. "We survive. We take inventory of everything we have. We plan, we fight. We don't give up until our last breath." Anne moved among the wounded, checking bandages and administering what little medicine remained. "We have maybe 3 days of water if we ration carefully. Food for 4 days. Medical supplies are almost gone. I can keep everyone alive for maybe 48 hours if nothing gets worse." Dmitri examined their weapons and equipment. "Ammunition is low. We have 2 grenades, 1 rocket launcher with no rockets, and enough bullets for maybe 1 serious firefight. The bunker's structural integrity is compromised on the east wall. If they bring heavy weapons, we won't last long." Patrick nodded, processing the information. "All right." We set up defensive positions. 2 people on watch at all times. Everyone else rests and conserves energy. "Dmitri, see if you can get any systems working. Maybe we can jury-rig something useful." As his soldiers moved to their tasks, Patrick allowed himself one moment of weakness. He pulled out a small photograph from his pocket, creased and worn. His daughter smiled up at him from a park on Earth, holding ice cream and laughing at something off camera. She was 7 now, would be 8 next month. He had promised to be home for her birthday. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he whispered to the picture before tucking it away. Night fell over Crimson Reach. The alien sun, larger and redder than Earth's sun, dropped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of blood and copper. The insect creatures withdrew temporarily, their hunting patterns tied to daylight. It gave the humans a brief respite. Patrick stood watch at the cracked viewport, staring out at the barren landscape. Somewhere out there, ships were leaving orbit, carrying soldiers to safety, carrying people who would go home to their families. He didn't feel angry at them. They deserved to survive, but someone had decided that 10 lives weren't worth the risk. 10 human beings with families, with dreams, with futures that would never happen now. That decision burned in Patrick's chest hotter than any alien weapon. "We'll make them remember us," he said to the empty air. "When they write about this disaster, they'll know that 10 soldiers refused to die quietly." Behind him, his people tried to sleep despite pain and fear. Tomorrow would bring another fight. Maybe their last fight. But tonight they were still alive. Still breathing. Still human. And Patrick would make damn sure they stayed that way as long as possible. High above the battlefield, perched on jagged rocks that cut into the crimson sky, a small dragon watched the chaos unfold. Ash had seen many battles on this world, but never anything like this. The humans fought with strange fire weapons and metal shells, while the insect swarms overwhelmed them with numbers and savage fury. Most dragons on Crimson Reach would have ignored the scene below. Other species and their wars meant nothing to dragonkind. But Ash was not like most dragons. She was different in ways that had cost her everything. Her scales were white as bone, pale as death. In a species where crimson-red coloring meant strength and status, Ash's albino appearance marked her as defective from birth. She was smaller too, barely the size of a horse where adult dragons typically matched elephants. Her clan had tolerated her existence for 20 years, hoping she might grow or darken with age. She did neither. 6 months ago, the clan elder had made his pronouncement. Ash could not hunt the great beasts. She could not fight in the territorial wars. She contributed nothing to dragon society. She was cast out, forbidden from clan lands, left to survive alone or die trying. Ash had chosen survival, but it was a lonely existence. She hunted small creatures in the wastelands, slept in shallow caves, and avoided other dragons who would mock or attack her on sight. She had learned to stay invisible, to watch the world from a distance. That was how she first discovered the humans. 3 months ago, their ships had arrived, bringing strange creatures who walked on 2 legs and built structures from metal and stone. Ash had watched them with curiosity. They worked together in ways dragons never did, helping each other, sharing food, protecting the weak. It fascinated her. Now those same humans were dying. Ash watched their metal birds fall from the sky in flames. She saw the bigger ships rise up and escape, while explosions tore through the ground bases. The insect creatures, native to this region, swarmed over human positions like water flooding into cracks. Something stirred in Ash's chest as she watched. She told herself it didn't matter. These were not her concern. Survival meant staying uninvolved, staying safe. That was what the clan elder had taught, even if he had cast her out. But Ash kept watching. She saw a small group of humans retreat into a bunker. 10 of them, she counted. Some were bleeding, others limped or were carried. The insect creatures surrounded the area but didn't attack immediately. They seemed to be waiting for something, organizing for a larger assault. As darkness fell, the insects withdrew. Ash knew their patterns. They hunted by day and returned to their hives at night. The humans had until morning, perhaps a bit longer. Then the insects would come in force and that bunker would become a tomb. Ash spread her wings and glided down from her perch. She landed on a rocky outcrop closer to the bunker, where she could see the structure more clearly. It was damaged, with one wall showing cracks and scorch marks. Through a small window, she glimpsed movement inside. "Why do I care?" she asked herself in the dragon tongue. "They are not my kind. Their fate is not my responsibility." But she didn't leave. Instead, she settled on the rocks and continued watching. Through the night, she saw one human stand guard while others rested. The guard changed twice. They were organized, disciplined. Even facing death, they maintained their patterns. It reminded Ash of something her mother had told her long ago, before the clan's rejection became absolute. Strength comes in many forms, little one. The clan sees only size and color, but true strength is in the spirit. Her mother had died defending Ash from a clan rival when Ash was young. After that, no one spoke kindly to the albino dragon. The memory still hurt. As dawn approached, Ash made a decision that surprised herself. She would help these humans, not openly, not in a way that would draw attention, but she would give them a chance. Something about their refusal to surrender, their care for their wounded, called to something deep inside her. She knew where water could be found on this desert world. She knew which plants held moisture in their roots, which ones were safe to eat. The humans were clearly running out of supplies. Perhaps she could share that knowledge, but how? Dragons and humans didn't speak the same language, and if she approached, they might attack out of fear. She had seen their weapons. Even her tough scales wouldn't stand up to sustained fire from those strange guns. Ash waited until full daylight, when the humans would be most alert and able to see her clearly. Then she flew down to a dried riverbed 100 meters from the bunker. She dug quickly with her claws, pulling up thick roots that held water. The humans might not know these plants were safe, but she could show them. Carefully holding the roots in her jaws, Ash approached the bunker. She could see a human watching from the window, weapon raised. Ash stopped well back from the entrance, dropped the roots on the ground, and backed away. She sat down, making herself look as non-threatening as possible, and waited. Nothing happened for several minutes. Then the bunker door opened a crack. A human emerged, moving cautiously. Female, Ash noted, with red cloth marked with symbols wrapped around one arm. The human held a weapon but kept it lowered. The woman approached the roots, examined them, then looked up at Ash with surprise clear on her face. Ash remained still, barely breathing. The woman said something in human language, soft sounds that Ash couldn't understand. Then slowly, the woman picked up the roots and retreated to the bunker. Ash waited until the door closed before flying back to her rocky perch. Her heart beat fast with nervousness and something else. Excitement, maybe, or hope. That night, she returned with more roots and some desert tubers that held clean water. Again, she left them near the bunker and retreated. This time, the same human came out more quickly. She gestured to Ash. More sounds Ash couldn't understand, but the tone seemed grateful. On the third night, Ash stayed a bit closer. The human woman was joined by another male, with marks of leadership in his bearing. They spoke to each other, then to Ash, pointing at the food and making gestures. Ash tried to respond, but dragon vocalizations were too different. Growls and rumbles that probably sounded threatening. The male human went back inside and returned with a small device. He held it up, pressed something, and sounds came out. Different sounds changing and shifting. He was trying to communicate. Ash felt something warm bloom in her chest. They were trying. These strange creatures, abandoned by their own kind just as she had been, were reaching out to her. She moved closer, step by careful step. The humans tensed but didn't flee. When Ash was close enough to touch, she lowered her head slowly in a gesture of peace. The woman reached out carefully and placed her hand on Ash's snout. In that moment, Ash knew her life had changed forever. She had found something the clan could never give her. She had found purpose. Dimitri worked through the night, his eyes burning with exhaustion as he stared at the translator device. Pieces of salvaged communication equipment lay scattered around him, connected by improvised wiring to the small box that might become their bridge to understanding the White Dragon. 4 days had passed since their abandonment. 4 days of the dragon bringing food and water. 4 days of growing trust between species who had no common language. Patrick had ordered Dimitri to solve that problem, and the engineer was determined to succeed. "Try it now," Dimitri said, holding up the device. Anne stood nearby with the dragon, who they had started calling Ash because of the pale color. The dragon tilted her head curiously at the box. Dimitri pressed the activation button and spoke clearly. "Hello. Can you understand these words?" The device processed, analyzed, and projected a series of tones and frequencies. Ash's eyes widened. She made a sound, a deep rumble from her chest. The device captured it, ran it through pattern recognition, and displayed symbols on a small screen. "Confusion," Dimitri read. "It's translating emotional content, not words yet. But it's a start." Anne knelt beside Ash and spoke toward the device. "We want to talk with you, to understand you. Can you help us learn?" More sounds from Ash. The device worked, pulling meaning from tone and frequency. Desire to communicate. Affirmative. Patrick joined them, watching the exchange with cautious optimism. Ask her why she's helping us. Dimitri relayed the question. Ash's response came as a longer vocalization, almost musical. The device struggled, then produced text. Alone. Rejected. You also alone. Rejected. Understand pain. A heavy silence fell over the bunker. Even Grace, usually quick with dark jokes, said nothing. The dragon's words hit too close to their reality. You were cast out by your people? Anne asked gently. Affirmative. Wrong color, wrong size. No value to clan. Sent away to die or survive alone. We were left behind too, Patrick said, and Ash didn't need translation to understand the bitterness in his voice. Our command decided we weren't worth saving. Over the next hours, they learned more about each other. Ash explained through improving translations that dragons valued size, color, and fighting strength above all else. She possessed none of these qualities, so her clan considered her worthless. She had lived alone for 6 months, barely surviving, watching the world from a distance. The humans shared their story too. The battle, the retreat, the cold calculation that left 10 soldiers behind. Ash listened, her large eyes reflecting something that looked remarkably like understanding. Your leaders fear risk more than value life, the device translated from Ash's growls. Dragon elders same, only strong matter, weak are burden. But you're helping us, Anne pointed out. You're risking yourself every time you come here. Why? Ash's response took time to formulate. When it came through, it was simple but profound. You help each other, carry wounded, share food, protect weak. Never see this before. Makes you strong in different way. Want to understand. Patrick felt something shift in his chest. Here was a creature rejected by her own kind, watching humans and seeing something worth valuing. Meanwhile, human command had looked at these same soldiers and seen nothing but acceptable losses. The insect creatures will attack again soon, Dimitri said, bringing them back to practical matters. We've maybe 2 days before they organize a major assault. Our ammunition won't hold against their numbers. We need to move, Patrick decided. Staying here is suicide. Move where? Grace asked. We're in the middle of hostile territory with wounded personnel and barely any supplies. Ash made an urgent sound. When translated, her words brought the first real hope they had felt in days. No place, human structure, far but abandoned, has metal and power. Saw it from sky. Patrick's mind raced. An abandoned facility? Could be an old mining outpost. If it has power, it might have communications equipment. 200 kilometers northeast, the device translated as Ash tried to convey distance. 3-day walk for you. Many dangers, but possible. We'll never make it, Grace said flatly. Half of us are wounded. We'd be exposed, visible, easy targets for insects or hostile dragons. I help, Ash transmitted through the device. No safe paths. Can scout from sky, carry supplies, guide you. Why would you risk that much? Patrick asked. If your kind sees you helping us, what happens to you? Already cast out, already alone. Cannot be more alone, but can choose to not be alone inside. The translation was awkward, but the meaning was clear. You show me what clan never did. Loyalty, care for others, worth fighting for. Anne placed her hand on Ash's shoulder. You're talking about honor, about choosing what's right over what's easy. Yes, honor, that word. Dragon Clan speaks it but does not live it. You live it. Patrick looked around at his soldiers. Each face showed exhaustion, pain, fear, but also determination. They had survived this long. Maybe with help from an unlikely ally, they could survive longer. If we do this, we all have to make it, Patrick said firmly. No one gets left behind, not again. If someone falls, we carry them. If we run out of supplies, we share the last drop of water. We go together or not at all. That's suicide by numbers, Grace pointed out. Tactically stupid? Probably, Patrick agreed. But it's who we are. It's what makes us human. Command forgot that, I won't. Ash made a sound that the device translated as approval. This is strength. Different from dragon strength. Better. They spent the rest of that day preparing. Dimitri fashioned carrying frames from salvaged materials. Anne reorganized medical supplies for mobility. Patrick and the other soldiers created a travel plan, marking rest points and considering contingencies. Ash flew reconnaissance missions, mapping the safest route. She returned with information about water sources, dangerous areas, and enemy movements. Each time she left, the humans worried she might not return. Each time she came back, their trust grew stronger. On the 5th night since their abandonment, they were as ready as they would ever be. Patrick gathered everyone together, looking at each face in the dim bunker light. Tomorrow we start walking. It's going to be hell. Some of us might not make it, but we're going to try because trying is what separates survivors from victims. We have a friend now. He nodded toward Ash. Someone who believes we're worth saving, even if our own command doesn't. Let's prove her right. The soldiers nodded, a quiet determination settling over them. They had been written off, forgotten, abandoned, but they weren't dead yet. And with a small white dragon on their side, maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. Ash curled up near the bunker entrance, positioning herself as a guard. Patrick noticed she placed herself between the humans and any potential danger. Protection, even when she was small for her kind. Tomorrow, he whispered to himself, we start proving that 10 lives matter. That one small dragon matters. That honor isn't just a word you say, it's a choice you make. Outside, the red sun would rise soon. With it would come danger, pain, and uncertainty, but also possibility. The possibility that outcasts and abandoned soldiers might forge something stronger than anything their respective societies understood. The possibility of redemption through mutual respect. The first day of walking nearly broke them. Patrick had led soldiers through harsh terrain before, but Crimson Reach tested them in ways training never prepared for. The red sand burned through their boots. The alien sun beat down with merciless intensity. Every step felt like moving through thick syrup. 2 soldiers had to be carried on makeshift stretchers. The young man with the stomach wound, whose name was Lee, drifted in and out of consciousness. The woman with the leg injury, Corporal Beth, gritted her teeth and refused to complain, but her face went gray with pain. Anne moved between them constantly, checking vitals, adjusting bandages, rationing their dwindling medical supplies. Ash flew overhead in wide circles, scanning for threats. Every hour she would land, share observations through the translator device, then take flight again. She guided them through canyons that shielded them from the worst heat, around areas where insects had established patrol patterns, toward rock formations where they could rest in shade. Stop here, Patrick ordered as they reached an overhang. 15-minute rest. Hydrate and check your feet. The soldiers collapsed gratefully. Grace helped Anne tend the wounded while Dimitri examined everyone's boots, which were deteriorating faster than expected. The desert was literally eating their equipment. Ash landed nearby, breathing heavily. Flying in this heat exhausted her too. Anne brought her water in a salvage container, and the dragon drank gratefully. Insects ahead? The device translated Ash's warnings. 3 hours walk. Large group. Must go around. Adds 4 hours. Patrick studied the mental map he had been building. 4 extra hours meant traveling partially through the night. Dangerous, but less dangerous than fighting insects when they were already exhausted. We keep moving after dark, he decided. Ash, can you navigate by starlight? Yes, dragon eyes see well in dark. We'll guide. One of the soldiers, a quiet man named Omar, spoke up. Why don't we just call for help from that facility we're going to? If it has power, it has communications. Too far for our hand radios, Dimitri explained. We need direct access to long-range equipment. Plus, we don't know if the facility is secure or compromised. The break ended too soon. They resumed walking, feet dragging, bodies protesting. Lee started bleeding again despite Anne's best efforts. She changed his bandages while 2 soldiers held him upright, trying to keep moving. We should leave him, Grace said quietly to Patrick. He's slowing us down. He might not survive anyway. No, Patrick said flatly. I'm being practical. You're being expedient. There's a difference. We carry him. Grace looked away but didn't argue further. Patrick knew her suggestion came from exhaustion and fear, not cruelty. But accepting it would mean accepting the same logic that left them all to die. He refused. As predicted, they walked into the night. The temperature dropped rapidly, going from scorching to cold within an hour of sunset. Soldiers shivered in their combat uniforms designed for moderate climates, not desert extremes. Ash's body radiated warmth and she walked close to the column, sharing heat where she could. The translator had been improving constantly. Dimitri had programmed it to learn from each interaction, building a database of dragon vocalizations and their meanings. By now, they could have almost natural conversations, though some concepts still got lost in translation. "Tell us about dragons," Anne said during a rest break, trying to keep spirits up with conversation. "Your history. Your culture." Ash settled down, her white scales almost glowing in the moonlight. The device captured her response. "Dragons old, very old. Once helped other species. Built things together, shared knowledge, but pride grew. Dragons decided they were superior. Stopped helping. Started taking. Now isolated. Alone by choice. Sounds familiar," Grace muttered. "Humans have done similar things throughout history." "Your people's isolation hurt them," Patrick observed. "They lost the strength that comes from cooperation." "Yes," Ash agreed through the device. "Clan strong in body, weak in spirit. I was told I make clan weak. Truth is, clan already weak, just couldn't see it." "Your mother understood," Anne said gently. She had heard the story of Ash's mother earlier. Mother was different, saw value in things clan did not value. She taught me kindness has power. Clan killed that idea with her. They sat in silence, processing that. A culture so rigid it would destroy its own members for thinking differently. Patrick wondered how many potential allies humanity had lost to similar rigid thinking. The second day proved harder than the first. Lee's condition deteriorated. Anne pulled Patrick aside during a rest stop, her face grave. "He's dying. Infection is spreading faster than I can treat. Without proper medical facilities, he has maybe 12 hours. Can you stabilize him? I can make him comfortable. That's all." Patrick approached Lee, who was conscious but feverish. The young man looked up with glassy eyes. "Hey, Commander," Lee whispered. "Am I slowing you down?" "No, soldier. You're keeping up just fine, liar." Lee smiled weakly. "Grace suggested leaving me, didn't she?" "I heard Patrick said nothing. She's right, you know. Tactically sound decision. Save the ones who can make it. We don't leave people behind. That's a promise. Even if it costs everyone." Patrick knelt beside the stretcher. "Lee, you want to know what separates us from the command that abandoned us? This exact choice. They made the practical decision. The numbers decision. We make the human decision. You matter. Your life matters. We carry you until we can't anymore, and then we find a way to keep going anyway." Tears ran down Lee's face. "Thank you, sir." Ash approached, having overheard through the translator. She looked at Lee, then at Patrick. "Clan would leave him. Say he weakens the group." "We're not a clan," Patrick said. "We're a family. Family doesn't abandon family." Something changed in Ash's eyes. The device struggled to translate her next vocalization, finally settling on, "This is why you are worth saving." On the third day, they crested a rise and saw it. A human facility in the distance, maybe 10 kilometers away. Solar panels glinted in the sun. Structures stood mostly intact. Signs of abandonment but not destruction. "That's it," Dimitri breathed. "We actually made it, but their relief was short-lived." Ash suddenly screeched a warning and dove from the sky. Behind them, cresting their own ridge, came a group of 5 dragons. Large, crimson-red, moving with purposeful menace. The lead dragon, massive and scarred, landed 50 meters away. It spoke in the dragon tongue and Ash's entire body went rigid. The translator worked, converting the words into human speech. "Ash, outcast and defective. You were banished. Yet here you are, serving lesser beings like a trained pet. You shame all dragons." Ash positioned herself between the humans and her former clan members. Her response came steady despite obvious fear. "These beings have more honor than the clan ever showed. They care for their weak. They fight for each other. They are not lesser." The large dragon laughed, a terrible sound. "They are prey, food, tools, nothing more. Return with us. Serve the clan properly. We may forgive your defiance. No. The word hung in the air. Simple. Absolute. The large dragon's eyes narrowed. Then you choose death alongside them. So be it. Patrick raised his weapon, knowing it was futile. 10 exhausted soldiers with limited ammunition against 5 full-size dragons. This was how it ended. But Ash spread her wings and roared, a sound that echoed across the desert. The translator captured her words, broadcasting them for all to hear. I choose loyalty over cruelty, compassion over pride. These humans were abandoned by their leaders but fight to save each other. I was rejected by my clan but found purpose in helping others. We stand together. And if you want them, you go through me first. Patrick made his decision instantly. Fire on my mark. Aim for eyes and wings. Make every shot count. The dragons advanced. The humans prepared for their last stand, and a small white dragon stood defiant against her former clan, choosing outcasts and abandoned soldiers over rejoining those who had cast her out. Sometimes strength isn't about size or power. Sometimes it's about standing firm for what matters, even when you're small and afraid and utterly outmatched. Sometimes strength is simply refusing to abandon those who matter to you. The first shot rang out from Patrick's rifle, catching the lead dragon in the shoulder. The bullet sparked off scales but drew blood. The massive creature roared in surprise and pain. Dragons on Crimson Reach rarely faced weapons that could hurt them. Scatter formation, Patrick ordered. His soldiers spread out, making themselves harder targets. Grace took position behind a rock outcrop, her one good arm steadying her rifle. Dimitri dropped to prone position, aiming carefully. Even Lee, barely, conscious on his stretcher, fumbled for the pistol in his belt. The 5 crimson dragons split up, circling the humans. They had size and strength, but the humans had tactics and desperation. More importantly, they had Ash. The small white dragon launched herself at one of the circling attackers, catching it off guard. Her smaller size made her faster, more maneuverable. She couldn't match their strength, but she didn't need to. She just needed to disrupt their formation. Ash raked her claws across the larger dragon's snout, drawing blood. The creature roared and snapped at her, but she was already gone, diving under its guard. The translator device on the ground continued broadcasting, picking up the dragon's furious words. Traitor! Defective! You dare strike your betters? You are not my betters! Ash's response came as she wheeled in the air. You are bullies who mistake cruelty for strength. 2 dragons converged on the human position. Patrick's soldiers opened fire in coordinated bursts, aiming for vulnerable spots. Eyes, wing membranes, the softer scales under the jaw. Beth, despite her broken leg, propped herself against a rock and fired with steady precision. Omar threw, one of their 2 grenades detonating it near a dragon's feet. The explosion didn't seriously wound the creature, but it bought precious seconds. The large scarred dragon, clearly the leader, focused on Ash. You choose death for pride, so be it, little defect. I will enjoy ending your miserable existence. He lunged, jaws wide. Ash dodged, but not quickly enough. Teeth closed on her tail, slamming her into the ground. Pain exploded through her body. The translator caught her cry of agony. Anne saw Ash fall and made a split-second decision. She grabbed a flare gun from her pack and fired it directly into the face of the dragon holding Ash. The bright chemical fire exploded across the creature's snout, temporarily blinding it. The dragon released Ash reflexively, trying to clear the burning substance from its eyes. Fall back to the gully, Patrick shouted. It was a defensive position 20 meters away, offering better cover. His soldiers moved in fighting retreat, dragging their wounded, firing continuously. Ash limped alongside them, one wing dragging, blood trailing behind her. They reached the gully just as ammunition started running critically low. Patrick counted his remaining rounds. 15 bullets. Most of his soldiers had similar counts. Not enough for a prolonged fight. The 5 dragons regrouped, circling at a distance now. They had expected easy prey and found coordinated resistance. The humans had drawn blood. Ash's defiance had surprised them, but the outcome was still inevitable. Numbers and firepower would run out before dragon strength did. The scarred leader approached the gully, stopping just outside weapon range. You fight well, for prey. But you will die here. Your weapons are nearly empty. Your dragon cannot save you. Patrick stood weapon ready, buying time. Maybe. But we'll take some of you with us. Is that worth it to you? Dying to kill 10 soldiers who nobody even cares about? It is about principle, the dragon responded. Defects must be punished. Lesser species must know their place. Lesser? Patrick laughed, a harsh sound. We're the ones our people abandoned. She's the one you cast out. We're all rejects here, but we've shown more honor in 3 days together than your clan has shown in years. If that makes us lesser, I'll take it. Dmitri was working frantically on something behind Patrick. The engineer had torn apart the translator device and was rewiring components. Keep him talking, Dmitri whispered. 30 more seconds. Anne tended to Ash, who was breathing hard. Her damaged wing twisted at an unnatural angle. The dragon tried to stand, to put herself between the humans in danger again, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Stay down, Anne said gently. You've done enough. More than enough. Not enough. Ash's pained response came through the device. Promise to help, protect, not finished. Sometimes surviving is enough, Anne told her. Sometimes that's the victory. The scarred dragon grew tired of talking. Enough. You die now. The 5 dragons advanced in formation. Patrick's soldiers prepared for the final stand. Dmitri made a last connection, activating his improvised device. What is that? Grace asked. Emergency beacon. Military frequency. If any human ships are within 50 light seconds, they'll pick it up. Dmitri looked grim. Won't save us, but at least they'll know we fought. The dragons closed to 30 meters. 20. Patrick raised his weapon, determined to make every shot count. Then the sky opened up with thunder. 3 human fighters screamed overhead, cannons blazing. Energy weapons tore into the desert, throwing up massive plumes of sand and rock between the soldiers and the dragons. The crimson dragons scattered, roaring in surprise and alarm. Patrick stared in disbelief as a heavy transport ship descended, its bay doors already opening. Marines in full combat armor dropped out, taking defensive positions, weapons trained on the dragons. A voice boomed from the transport's loudspeaker. Human survivors, this is Rescue Group 7. We detected your beacon. Get to the ship now, we'll cover you. Patrick didn't hesitate. Move! Everyone move! His soldiers grabbed the wounded and ran. Grace and Omar carried Lee between them. Dmitri half-dragged Beth. Anne supported Ash, the small dragon barely able to walk with her damaged wing. The Marines laid down suppressing fire, keeping the hostile dragons at bay. The 5 crimson dragons, faced with coordinated military force, chose tactical retreat over certain death. They took flight, disappearing over the ridgeline. Inside the transport, Patrick's soldiers collapsed, hardly believing they were alive. Medical personnel immediately swarmed over the wounded. One medic approached Ash with uncertainty. Sir, what do we do about the dragon? You treat her, Patrick said with absolute authority. She's the reason we survived. She gets the best care we can provide. Anne stayed with Ash as alien and human medical staff worked together to stabilize the small dragon. Ash's eyes found Patrick across the bay, and the translator, still somehow functional in Dimitri's pack, caught her weak vocalization. You were rescued. Not abandoned after all. Patrick knelt beside her, his throat tight. We were rescued because someone refused to let us die alone. Because a small white dragon showed us that honor isn't dead. You saved us, Ash. We wouldn't have lasted another day without you. Clan was wrong about me, Ash transmitted weakly. Had value after all. The clan was wrong about everything, Patrick said firmly. They just couldn't see it. A human officer approached, confusion clear on his face. Commander Patrick? We need to understand what happened here. You were listed as casualties 5 days ago. We intercepted your beacon by chance during a patrol sweep. And you're traveling with a dragon? It's a long story, Patrick said. But the short version is this. When our command abandoned us, she didn't. When her clan rejected her, we didn't. We survived together, and we're going back together." The officer looked between the exhausted soldiers and the wounded dragon, processing this unprecedented situation. "This is going to require extensive debriefing." "I'm sure it will," Patrick agreed. "But it can wait until everyone's stable and rested. We've earned that much." As the transport lifted off, Patrick watched Crimson Reach fall away below them. A red desert world where 10 soldiers were supposed to die and be forgotten. Instead, they had found an ally no one expected, proven that abandoned outcasts could create their own family, and challenged the prejudices of 2 species. Lee, stabilized now by proper medical care, managed a weak smile. "Did we actually just get rescued by refusing to give up?" "No," Patrick corrected. "We got rescued because someone saw value in us when no one else did, and we saw value in her when her entire species didn't. That's the real victory." Outside, the fighters maintained escort formation, protecting the transport as it climbed toward the waiting fleet. Inside, exhausted soldiers finally allowed themselves to believe they might actually survive. And a small white dragon, wounded but alive, rested among the humans she had chosen to save. Sometimes the outcasts find each other. Sometimes the abandoned refuse to stay forgotten. And sometimes the smallest among us carry the greatest strength of all. 6 months had passed since Crimson Reach. Patrick stood in the observation deck of the human diplomatic station orbiting the planet, watching ships come and go. The view was peaceful now, so different from the chaos of that desert battlefield. Beside him, Ash perched on a specially designed platform, her wing fully healed, her white scales gleaming under the station lights. The military tribunal had taken 3 months. 3 months of testimony, investigation, and review. Patrick and his soldiers had told their story repeatedly, each time highlighting how they were abandoned and how Ash saved them. The dragon had become something of a sensation across human space. An alien who valued human life more than human command did. The verdict came down hard on the commanders who ordered the evacuation without them. Charges filed. Careers ended. New protocols established. Never again would soldiers be abandoned without exhausting every possible rescue option. It was a policy written in the blood and suffering of 10 people who refused to die quietly. But the tribunal was nothing compared to what came after. Ash's actions had resonated across multiple species. Dragons who heard the story began questioning their clan's rigid hierarchies. Young dragons especially asked uncomfortable questions about strength and value, and the meaning of honor. Anne entered the observation deck, carrying data pads and medical reports. She had been working with xenobiologists to establish care protocols for dragon medicine. Her treatment of Ash had opened entirely new fields of cross-species medical practice. "The delegation from the dragon clans is here," Anne said. "They're asking for you and Ash." Patrick exchanged glances with the small dragon. They had been expecting this, but dreading it too. The dragon clans had remained silent for months about Ash's actions. Now they wanted to talk. The conference room was large and carefully designed to accommodate both species. Patrick, Anne, Dimitri, and Grace represented the human side. Lee was there too, fully recovered now, walking without assistance. Beth stood at attention despite her slight limp. The other soldiers from their group were present as well, a united front. 3 dragons entered, all large and crimson red. Traditional colors of dragon power. One of them was the scarred leader who had attacked them on Crimson Reach. His presence made several soldiers tense, hands moving instinctively toward weapons that weren't there. "Peace," the scarred dragon said through translation devices now standard in diplomatic settings. "We come to talk, not fight." "Talk then," Patrick said coolly. "Though I'm curious what you have to say to the soldiers you tried to kill." The scarred dragon settled heavily, his age showing in the movement. "I am called Ember. I lead the Crimson Ridge clan, the clan that cast out Ash. I speak for many dragon clans now, united in purpose for the first time in centuries." "United to do what?" Patrick asked. "Reject more of your own kind? Attack more humans?" "United to change," Ember said, and the words clearly cost him. "Ash's actions have caused division among dragon kind. The young question the old ways. They ask why we cast out the different, why we refuse cooperation with other species, why we measure value only in size and color and combat prowess. Ash had remained silent until now. She stepped forward, meeting Ember's gaze directly. You tried to kill me. You tried to kill those who showed me kindness. Why should we believe you want change? Because you proved the old ways are wrong, Ember admitted. A small white dragon achieved what no crimson dragon has done in 1,000 years. You built an alliance. You saved lives. You demonstrated loyalty that crossed species. The young dragons sing songs about you now. They call you Ash the Brave, Ash the Loyal. They want to be like you, not like us. That must hurt your pride, Grace said sharply. It does, Ember agreed without shame. But pride is what led us to isolation and stagnation. Your species, for all your flaws, understands something we forgot. Cooperation creates strength. Diversity adds resilience. Loyalty builds trust. These are not weaknesses. Patrick remained skeptical. Pretty words. What do you actually want? The dragon clans wish to establish formal relations with humanity, Ember explained. Not as superiors to inferiors, but as equals. We want to learn from you, perhaps teach you in return. We want Ash to serve as liaison between our peoples if she is willing. All eyes turned to the small white dragon. Ash had been given many opportunities over the past months. The human military wanted her as an advisor. Several corporations offered positions. Research institutions begged for her cooperation. She had turned them all down, choosing instead to stay close to the 10 soldiers she had saved. Why should I help the clans? Ash asked. You rejected me. You tried to kill my friends. Why should I bridge the gap you created? Because you are better than we were, Ember said. Because you understand honor in ways we had forgotten. Because the young dragons need someone to show them a different path. They need you, Ash. And perhaps we all need humans to remind us what we lost. Silence filled the room. Patrick watched Ash carefully. This was her decision to make. Whatever she chose, he would support. Ash looked at Patrick, then at Anne, at each of the soldiers who had become her family. If I do this, I have conditions. The clans must formally apologize for casting out dragons who are different. They must change laws that value appearance over character, and they must promise to never again attack humans who have shown no hostility. Agreed, Ember said immediately. The Council of Clans has already drafted these changes. They wait only for your acceptance to implement them. One more thing, Ash added. These humans, my humans, must be part of any agreements. They are my advisors, my friends, my clan. Where I go, they go. What I decide, they help decide. Patrick felt his throat tighten. Being claimed as clan by a dragon carried significant weight in their culture. Ash was declaring them family in the most formal way possible. Unusual, Ember said, but acceptable. Cross-species clan membership is unprecedented, but then you have made a career of creating precedents. Over the following weeks, agreements were drafted and signed. Patrick and his soldiers found themselves at the center of the first true alliance between humans and dragons. Lee, who had nearly died on a desert world, became a translator specialist. Beth used her experience to develop new combat protocols for mixed species units. Dimitri led teams integrating human and dragon technology. Anne continued her medical work, but expanded it to include teaching dragons about human physiology and humans about dragon biology. Grace surprisingly became close friends with several young dragons interested in flight techniques. The cultural exchange flowed both ways. Patrick himself was promoted and given command of the new integration forces, military units designed to work alongside dragon allies. His first order as commander was establishing the principle that no soldier, human or dragon, would ever be abandoned again. But the biggest change came in dragon society itself. Young dragons began openly challenging clan hierarchies. Dragons who were different, whether in color, size, or temperament, were no longer automatically cast out. Ash's story spread across multiple worlds, inspiring not just dragons but other species who heard about an outcast who became a hero. The scarred dragon Ember retired from clan leadership, replaced by younger voices advocating cooperation and change. Before leaving his position, he did something unprecedented. He formally apologized to Ash in front of the entire Crimson Ridge clan. You were right and we were wrong, he said. You found strength and compassion while we grew weak in pride. You built bridges while we built walls. You honored loyalty while we honored only power. The clan failed you, Ash, I failed you. But you succeeded despite us, and in doing so saved us all. Ash accepted his apology but made clear that forgiveness would take time. Scars, physical and emotional, didn't heal instantly. But she was willing to try, to build something better from the ashes of old prejudices. 1 year after Crimson Reach, Patrick stood again in the observation deck. The diplomatic station had expanded significantly. Ships from multiple species now docked regularly. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges flourished. All because 10 soldiers refused to die and 1 small dragon refused to let them. Ash joined him, as she often did during quiet moments. They watched a transport ship arrive carrying young dragons coming to study human culture. Another ship departed with human students heading to dragon worlds. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't helped us? Patrick asked. Often, Ash admitted. I would likely still be alone. Surviving but not living. The clan would still be isolated. These changes would not have happened. You changed everything by choosing compassion over safety. We changed everything, Ash corrected. You chose to carry wounded rather than leave them. You chose loyalty over expedience. You taught me that being strong means protecting others, not dominating them. I just reflected what you showed me. Patrick smiled. We taught each other then. Yes, and now we teach others together. Ships continued their dance across the viewport, each one carrying people and dragons learning to see beyond old prejudices. The galaxy was far from perfect. Conflicts still erupted. Prejudices still existed, but cracks had formed in old walls. Light shone through where there had been only darkness. Lee approached, walking confidently now, no trace of the dying soldier he had been. Commander, the new recruits are ready for your speech. Mixed human-dragon units, first graduating class. Patrick straightened his uniform. How do I look? Like someone who survived the impossible and lived to make it possible for others, Lee said with a grin. In the auditorium, young soldiers and young dragons waited. They represented something that shouldn't exist according to old rules. But old rules were changing. Patrick took the podium, Ash beside him, and looked out at faces both human and dragon. You are pioneers, he began. You represent an idea that almost died in a desert. The idea that different species can work together. That outcasts can become heroes. That loyalty matters more than rank or species or the color of your scales. He paused, making eye contact with individuals throughout the audience. A year ago, 10 soldiers were abandoned to die. A small white dragon was living alone, rejected by her kind. We found each other in the worst circumstances imaginable. And we proved that compassion is stronger than abandonment. Loyalty is stronger than prejudice. And cooperation is stronger than isolation. Patrick gestured to Ash. This dragon saved my life and the lives of my soldiers. But more than that, she saved our faith in what military service means. We don't serve to dominate or abandon. We serve to protect, to build, to create something better than what we inherited. Ash spoke through the translation system. These humans taught me that being small doesn't mean being weak. That being different doesn't mean being wrong. That true strength comes from standing together, not standing alone. Together, human and dragon addressed the next generation. They spoke of sacrifice and redemption, of choices made in desperate moments that rippled across worlds, of 10 soldiers and 1 dragon who refused to accept what society told them they were worth. You are the future, Patrick concluded. A future where no one is abandoned. Where differences are valued, not feared. Where humans and dragons stand together. Make us proud. Honor what we built. And build something even better. The applause thundered through the auditorium, human hands and dragon wings creating a sound of unity. Patrick looked at Ash and saw his own satisfaction reflected in her eyes. They had been outcasts, forgotten and rejected. Now they stood at the heart of change that would reshape multiple species. Outside the station, Crimson Reach hung in space, a red desert world where impossible things happened, where loyalty proved stronger than logic. Where a small white dragon and 10 human soldiers created ripples that became waves. The galaxy was learning what they already knew. That sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. That sometimes those who are cast out are actually those who see most clearly. And that sometimes, refusing to abandon someone creates changes that resonate forever. Patrick and Ash left the auditorium together, walking side by side, ready for whatever came next. Behind them, young soldiers and young dragons mingled, learning from each other, building friendships that would last lifetimes. The abandoned had found their purpose. The outcast had found her value. And together they had found something neither expected in that desperate desert. They had found home.